Welcome everybody. So today we are back and bringing you guys a brand new movie review. This is going to be for Jurassic Park 3. This movie is directed by Joe Johnston. It has a couple of the main characters from the first film coming back, such as Laura Dern as Ellie Sadler. We got Sam Neill back as Alan Grant. We've got new characters such as William H. Macy's character, as well as Tia Leone joining the ride, and some actual really good talent in this film. Now, is this movie good per se? Not really. This is more or less a sort of C-grade film, so I'm going to tell you off the bat that I think that it's a C-grade movie. The movie is pretty much in line with Solo, a Star Wars story, which I said was kind of not really good, not really bad. It's pretty much something that you've seen before and that you don't really need to see again. But I would say in terms of Jurassic Park, I have a love-hate relationships with this movie. I really love some parts of this film. I think some parts of it are fantastic, while other parts are kind of run-of-the-mill mundane. This movie pretty much takes place where this stepfather takes William H. Macy's son out to Isla Sorna, which everybody knows is Site B from The Lost World Jurassic Park. The Spinosaurus aegypticus attacks them, which the Spinosaurus aegypticus is the new sort of alpha predator. It attacks them. Later on, you'll find out that, stepfather is actually killed and skinned alive by the Spinosaurus aegypticus, which is kind of horrifying. Kind of a similar scene to that of the Predator, where they find all the people that crash land in that helicopter and they're all skinned by the Predator. So this prompts William H. Macy and Tia Leone's character to recruit Alan Grant to go back to Jurassic Park. Him stating before in sort of this auditorium with a group of researchers that he would not pay any sort of money to go back to the island, sort of study them if he had the chance. That was kind of one of the lines in this film. They eventually bribe Alan Grant to kind of just fly over the island and everything and give him a tour, basically trying to trick Alan Grant into actually coming with them on this journey. When they finally make it to Isla Sorna, they see a bunch of dinosaurs and stuff. Alan Grant isn't still, caught on to the plot of the film where these two couples are trying to get their son back, and eventually he kind of figures it out when they start pretty much saying, there's nothing that they're seeing there, even though there's a bunch of dinosaurs and stuff on the ground. They eventually knock Alan Grant out, where he kind of tells them that they cannot land on the island and everything, and they don't want to listen to him because they're still trying to find their son. This prompts the Spinosaurus to kind of chase the mercenaries out of the forest when they go up to set a perimeter. Alan Grant again stating that this is a very bad idea, and then once again they're not listening to him, and their plane eventually crash lands into the forest as the Spinosaurus is kind of chasing them and hunting them down. This causes them to kind of crash, the plane to kind of crash to the ground, and the Spinosaurus to kind of claw at the bit to try and kill them and get to them, even though they're kind of trapped and being thrown around like a tumble dryer inside of this aircraft. They eventually make their way out of the aircraft, and they eventually find that their son is still alive, but this is after several attempts and an encounter with a T-Rex and a Spinosaurus fighting. This is one of my major gripes about this film. See, the T-Rex has a bigger bite force, a big radius of the mouth. The T-Rex is the one that clamps down on the Spinosaurus' neck first. It should have literally killed the Spinosaurus, but as we all know, in this movie, the Spinosaurus kind of gets a hold of the T-Rex, snaps his neck, and pretty much kills him, and that's the end of it. Mostly because of the fact that they're trying to replace the T-Rex in this movie, which I don't think is really that great of an idea. I think the T-Rex is a really big icon if you're wanting to make the Spinosaurus an icon of Jurassic Park and the new Jurassic Park franchise. You really should have put more emphasis on making the monster cool instead of trying to do away with something that was old and, doing something new with it, which I don't mind the Spinosaurus. I think it's a really cool character. I just think that for this movie, a lot of people were expecting a little bit more of the T-Rex, and really the T-Rex should have won that fight, which scientists now state that as a fact the T-Rex should have won in Jurassic Park 3. But this leads to the scene where they eventually find William H. Macy's son. You kind of see Tia Leone and William H. Macy's sort of relationship as sort of these ex-lovers who are kind of separated because, they're not getting along. They eventually have to come together to kind of bring their son back with them, which is kind of this secondary subplot within this film, which they eventually do. Not before they are chased down by pteranodons in a pteranodon enclosure, which I think is a really cool scene. Probably one of the cooler scenes in the film, where you kind of see the pteranodon kind of stepping forth out of the darkness, the mist that's kind of in the pteranodon enclosure due to like the atmosphere and everything, and it creates this really horrific scene where you see the kid kind of leaping from mountain peak to mountain peak as the little baby pteranodons are chasing after him, which you kind of see in this film. The pteranodon sequence being that one which was originally going to be in The Lost World, which I kind of stated before in my Lost World review, but they never got around to it because Steven Spielberg really fought for the San Diego sequence. I think it was a much better way to end sort of The Lost World Jurassic Park, but they eventually do the pteranodon sequence here, which they make these creatures out to be these sort of like horror monsters and stuff, where you see sort of the pteranodon at one point in the end when Billy's kind of going down the ravine, you see the pteranodon kind of turn its head and it kind of looks at him kind of menacingly and kind of horror pose and everything. I really like this part of the film. I think think this is a really cool sequence. Same with the Spinosaurus fight sequence, even though the Tyrannosaurus Rex should have won. But, you know, suspension of disbelief aside, I think that sequence is really cool, mostly because you see kind of Alan Grant kind of struggling to kind of get away from the T-Rex and the Spinosaurus as they're kind of roaming around this sort of area in the forest, and they're kind of whipping up trees and stuff and fighting each other, and that was pretty cool. You get this really cool sequence where you see some new dinosaurs and stuff when they're kind of going down the river after Alan Grant and William H. Macy and Tia Leone's character kind of reconciles with their son and everything, and they get him back. You see the brontosauruses, you see sort of all the herbivore dinosaurs kind of alongside the edge of the terrace and everything, and you see them kind of looking down upon Alan Grant as well as the other characters. This leads to the Spinosaurus aegypticus coming back once again for a final showdown between William H. Macy, who shoots a flare gun into the air, and you see sort of the flare kind of like streak out towards the Spinosaurus, hits him in the face, and then the Spinosaurus kind of roars and kind of takes off running. This after Alan Grant trying to call Laura Dern's character, who you see a little bit of Laura Dern's character in the beginning of the film, which I think she should have been in this movie a little bit longer. It was kind of disheartening to see that they kind of relegated her to a side character in this movie. You kind of see that she's dating another man, not necessarily Alan Grant like they were dating in the first film, which I think is kind of like stupid in a way, because, you know, after what happened to them in the first film, you would think that they would kind of be a closer knit type of family situation where they're kind of a little bit more of a couple and more together, because Alan Grant pretty much saved her life in Jurassic Park 1. If you haven't seen that movie, definitely go see that. But yeah, she calls the military after hearing the Spinosaurus kind of clawing its way into the cage that Alan Grant as well as the other cast have kind of pushed themselves into, and the Spinosaurus is kind of clawing its way again to try and kill them, dips them underneath the water and everything, and they're kind of struggling to stay not only alive but trying to get breath and everything as the Spinosaurus is kind of clawing its way at them, which leads to William H. Macy's character pulling the flare gun on the Spinosaurus and causing him to go away. And you'll eventually see the other plot line where Billy was trying to get the raptor eggs from a nest that he found in Jurassic Park 3 back to the mainland come to fruition, where the bag that he was holding with all the Velociraptor eggs, the Velociraptors kind of corner them at the end of the film, and Alan Grant kind of orders the kid to kind of give the Velociraptor eggs back to the female Velociraptor, and Velociraptor is actually taking the eggs and stuff and then running away with them, which leads to Alan Grant and them kind of sensing that the military is there, and there's a bunch of helicopters and amphibious landing cruisers and stuff. It was kind of cool to see that sort of sequence play out a little bit in Jurassic Park 3. This eventually leads to the ending of the film where you see the pteranodons kind of flying away, and they're talking about how they hope that the dinosaurs don't make it to the mainland and everything, which they eventually do in the Jurassic World franchise. Spoiler alert. So yeah, I am a huge fan of Jurassic Park. I think that this movie is a franchise that I really love, and I still love to this day, even as an adult. You know, as a kid, I was a huge dinosaur fanatic. One of my career choices was not only, you know, like a storm chaser like I wanted to do originally, but also be an archaeologist, mostly because of my fascination between dinosaurs and Jurassic Park. I think that kind of went away as time went on, and I'm like, oh, cool, there's people that actually are filmmakers and people that actually do this stuff for a living. I like the fact that they use practical and CG effects in Jurassic Park 3, mostly because they brought back Stan Winston to come and do the visual effects and stuff for this movie. The animatronic dinosaurs look as good as they've ever done in sort of a Jurassic Park movie, and technology has progressed. So, you know, his legacy is kind of lived on through these movies, and it's kind of cool to see that now compared to what they do nowadays, which is just completely CGI, because it's like you've had all this success in the past of using CG and practical effects with animatronics. Why don't you just do that now? And like anything in camera always looks good whenever you've got like a realistic dinosaur mixed in with a CG creature. It just adds that more believability to it that you otherwise wouldn't see. Hollywood now has kind of forgotten that CGI is supposed to be a tool, not sort of like a crutch, and a lot of people live on this crutch for some reason where everything has to be CGI. Nothing can be done practically inside of, you know, the camera, which I don't understand why they can't do that. But overall, I think that the music score, bringing John Williams back for this movie, was really cool. You know, John Williams doing that of Star Wars and Indiana Jones and a lot of other Steven Spielberg and George Lucas films, which he's got a really big influence on Jurassic Park as well. Probably one of the more famous composers out there, along with Hans Zimmer. I think he does a really good job. So I think if, you know, John Williams retires sometime in the near future and they do future Jurassic Park movies, they should get someone like Hans Zimmer to do the scores, because, you know, you're going to have to find somebody of that caliber to do that. I think Hans Zimmer is just like the next choice for that. For me, the story, you know, touched a little bit too much on the family drama between, you know, them trying to get their son back and then them not getting along, which part of me liked, part of me didn't like, because there's some, you know, sort of cliches and tropes and stuff with that. The mercenary unit that they hired were complete buffoons, you know, and they get killed pretty easily, not only by the Spinosaurus, but by the Velociraptors early on in the film, which most of those creatures in that shot were not digital, but, you know, animatronic dinosaurs, which I really like. I like seeing, you know, Ellie Sattler, or Laura Dern's character back, and I like seeing Alan Grant back in this film, and I hear that for Jurassic World 3 they're going to be bringing pretty much all the characters back for the final film, which I think will be really fantastic to see kind of all these characters that we've grown to love over time within this franchise kind of come back. There's some really cool dinosaurs that they show in one of the scenes where you see sort of the velociraptors chasing after Alan Grant and the mercenary unit, and they go through this field of like duck-billed dinosaurs and stuff kind of running across and stuff, and you see different herbivore dinosaurs in the mix between there, and it's like that was a pretty cool sequence. Like they have really cool sequences like that in this film. One of the sequences that made me kind of question this movie is when the Spinosaurus is chasing Alan Grant, Billy, and the rest of the team after they kind of steal the velociraptor eggs, and they make it to this sort of building, and they slam the wooden doors shut and they lock it pretty much in place, and you see the Spinosaurus kind of slamming against the gate and everything. It's like, why couldn't the Spinosaurus break through? It's just a wooden gate. It's not like you couldn't just burst through and kind of go after them. But again, willing suspension of disbelief aside, you know, that sequence is kind of dumb. But overall, this movie is about a C. It's not fantastic. It's not great. It's nothing that you haven't seen before. And I pretty much, like I said before, give it kind of the same rating that we give Solo. It's fun to watch every once in a while when you've got nothing better to do. It's a fun sort of Jurassic Park movie to kind of sit down and watch with your family and stuff. So I would say this is a really good C minus type of movie. Not bad, you know, C minus isn't really bad, it's just not really good. So hopefully you guys like this review. I know it's been a long time coming in terms of reviewing Jurassic Park 3, but I've reviewed all the other Jurassic Park movies since this, so I figured I would kind of review this for you guys. And as always, guys, hopefully you guys like this review, and if you did, please rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.